all. Myself Suma R, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of ECE, MIT Mysore. I have a total of 9 years of experience. Today I will be discussing a subject called Computer Organization and Architecture with the subject code 18EC35. And now this is the syllabus of Computer Organization and Architecture. Before seeing what are all the topics we have in this subject, let us first understand what is computer organization and architecture. So here we have two separate sections. One is computer organization and the other one is computer architecture. Now first let us see what is computer organization. Computer organization deals with the units, how the functional units of a computer are interconnected. And coming to the architecture, this computer architecture deals with the instruction set and the hardware which is used to implement the instruction or the programs. Okay, so this is about the computer organization and architecture. And now coming to the syllabus, what we have in this subject, we have 5 modules. In the first module we are going to understand the basic functional units of the computer. Next we are going to learn machine instructions and programs. In the second module we have addressing modes, assembly language and input-output operations. And in the third module we have input and output organization. For the fourth module we have memory system. In the fifth module we have basic processing unit. So in this subject we are going to understand how the computer is inside the computer, how the components are interconnected and how to optimize in terms of size, cost and computational speed. So this is what we have in this syllabus. And now we shall consider the first module, that is basic functional units, machine instructions and programs. So firstly let us consider basic functional units. So before discussing the basic functional units of a computer system, first let us see what is a computer and then we will see the types of computer. Later we will discuss the functional units of the computer. So now coming to the computer, if I ask what is a computer, definitely anybody can answer it as a computational device which performs several arithmetic operations. A common man can answer in this way, but as a professionalist we should be able to explain in more detail compared to a common man. So if I ask what is a computer, we can say it as a fast electronic device which performs calculations and it accepts the data from the external sources and produces or sends the data or the result to the external destinations. So this is the definition of computer. Now if you consider the types of computer, so depending on the size, cost, computational power and applications, there are several types of computers and some of them are listed here. The first one is personal computer or desktop computer. This is the most commonly seen computer, so in all the homes, offices and schools, because here in this computer, so we have components like monitor or display, central processing unit, keyboard, mouse, all these can be located on a desk in an office or home. So this is called as desktop computer. And next version of this desktop computer is notebook computer, wherein we have all these components, all these units packaged into a single briefcase size device, and that is called as notebook computer. And after notebook computer we have workstations. So if you have applications wherein you require large computational power than the personal computer and the notebook computer offer, then we go for workstations. So workstations has large storage capacity and computational power compared to the first two types of computer. And along with that it has graphical display units. So it can be used for engineering applications where we have interactive design work. And after the workstations we have two more types of computers. So these are computers which has more storage capacity and larger computational power compared to the workstations, and these are enterprise systems and servers. And the next type is supercomputers. So enterprise systems, or it is also called as mainframes, and servers, these handle large database. So enterprise systems compared to workstations are more powerful and it provides large data storage space, and servers deals with large sizable database, so which is usually used in these two, that is enterprise systems usually used in the offices, corporate offices, wherein the data storage requirement will be large. And servers, these will provide the access to the large volume of data, so these will be accessed by the public sectors, public communities, and usually these are the input or the request and responses to the servers will be through internet communication. And last type of computer we have is supercomputer. So this will be having large computational power and storage capacity compared to all these computer types, and these will be used in applications like as an example, weather forecasting, aircraft design and simulations, etc., where the calculations, numerical calculations will be more compared to the other applications. These are the types of computers. Next, let us see the functional unit of computer. Next, let us see basic functional units of computer. We have all seen the computer. So if I ask you what are the functional units of the computer, definitely you will answer it as monitor, then keyboard, mouse and the CPU, central processing unit. But actually it has 5 independent functional units, and those are input, next we have memory, next we have arithmetic logic unit, next output unit, and lastly we have control unit. These are the 5 independent functional units we have in a computer. Now let us see a simple diagram showing these blocks: input, output, these two together called as I/O unit, and we have memory. Next we have processor. Within the processor we have arithmetic and logic unit, and next we have control unit. These two together called as processor. So this is the basic functional unit diagram. Okay, yes. So now let us understand how the communication happens between these functional units. So initially we have input. So input is a device which accepts the input information. So that is, it may be from the human operator or it may be from the other computer in the digital form. So computer is able to understand only the digital form of information, that is either 0 or 1. Therefore whatever the input we give, so that will be accepted from the input device, and that information will be given to the memory. So it is going to store the data and it will be available whenever required. Okay, so input may be stored in the memory or it may be directly given to the arithmetic and logic unit for performing the required operation. And once the input is given to arithmetic and logic unit, it may be directly or through the memory. So arithmetic and logic unit performs the required operation according to the instructions or program whatever we have written, and once the output is ready, it is going to send it to the output device. Output device may be a printer or may be a display. So it is going to accept the output information and it is going to give it to the outside world. And we have control unit, so which is going to control all these actions or operations performed by the 4 units of the computer. Control unit is going to give you the timing signals when and how it has to be executed or operated will be controlled by the control unit. So now let us consider all these units one by one and let us understand, so what is the role of individual units in a computer system. So firstly we have input. So input, as I said just now, input is nothing but it is a device which is going to read the given data, and the data may be given by an human operator or it may be an information from some other system, some other computer. So it will accept the data, it will read the data which is in the digitized format, and it is going to give it to either memory or to the ALU. And as an example of input device, so we can consider keyboard. Keyboard is the most commonly known input device which will accept the data. So that is whenever a key is pressed by a human operator, that will be converted into the digital information, it will be translated into digital information, and that will be given to either memory or ALU for performing the further operation. And other input devices include joysticks, trackballs and mouse, so which are used as graphical input devices along with the display, so in order to give input. Even in some cases microphone can also be used in order to capture the audio input which will be later encoded into digital information. So this is about the input device. After input unit we have memory unit. So memory unit is a storage device. It is capable of storing the data which is given as input, or it may store the result which is produced as output. It consists of 2 storage. One is primary storage and the second one is secondary storage. And this memory will be consisting of n number of semiconductor cells, and each cell is capable of storing 1 bit of information. And usually this memory will not be accessed, that is we are not going to read or write single bit at a time. Instead we are going to access it as a fixed size bits called word. We access it as a fixed size bits called word. And in modern computers this word can be, or fixed size can vary from 16 to 64, and usually we call this 16 bit or 32 bit or 64 bit as word length. So this is very important because this decides the capacity of the computer. Therefore, so now as we discussed, memory unit has 2 types of storages, primary storage and secondary storage, and memory consisting of n number of semiconductor cells, and each semiconductor cell is capable of storing 1 bit of information, and we are not going to access it either by writing or reading 1 bit at a time. Instead we are going to access it as a fixed size bits, and it is called word. And we have several word length. So word length is nothing but the fixed size. So word is nothing but word length, and we have 16, 32 and 64 bits as word length. Data are usually accessed in units of a word or multiples of words or parts of words in a computer system, and the memory which can be accessed very quickly in a short and fixed amount of time is called as random access memory. In short, it is called as RAM. And the fast and small RAM is called as caches, and large and slow RAM is called as main memory. And the time required to access random access memory or to read or write one word is called as memory access time. Which can range from few nanoseconds to 100 nanoseconds in modern computers. So now we call the fast and the small memory as caches. Usually, so this will be very close to the processor, or in some processor you will be having this cache on the processor chip itself. So in order to achieve high performance, caches will be fabricated in the processor chip itself. And so another type of RAM is main memory. So this will be slow compared to caches, but it will be a large part of RAM will be present in main memory. And next, so we have secondary storage. So we discussed about primary storage. Next we have secondary storage. So primary storage is very essential and it is very costly compared to the secondary storage. It is very costly. Because of that reason, so wherever it is required to store large programs and infrequently used programs, in such applications we go for secondary storage. And the examples of secondary storage are CD-ROMs, magnetic diskettes and tapes. So this is about the memory unit. So next we have arithmetic and logic unit. So this is very important. Why? Because is whatever the instructions, whatever the program we write in order to execute any task, so that will be performed by arithmetic and logic unit. Say for example, an addition of two operands. If you consider addition of two operands, so the say A and B, and let me consider the statement as C is equal to A plus B. So if this is the instruction given to the computer, the arithmetic logic unit reads the operand A from the memory, then operand B from the memory, and these two will be added and the result will be updated in the C register, maybe a register or some memory location. So this operation will be performed by arithmetic and logic unit. Not only the addition, all the arithmetic and logical related operations are carried out by arithmetic and logic unit. And usually when we read the data from the memory location, it will be stored into the registers which are present in the memory, because registers are fast compared to other memory. Because of that reason, so we have n number of general purpose registers which are present in the memory. All the data which will be read from the memory or the locations, so which are written in the program, will be stored in the register, so that we can achieve high performance. Okay. Next, so once the result is ready, it will be given to the output unit. So next we have output unit. Output unit does the opposite function of input unit. So input unit reads the data, whereas output unit writes the data, and the function of output unit is to produce the data to the outside world. So this output unit, as an example, we can consider printer. So what is the function of the printer? Printer prints the data, so which is to be given to the outside world, and we have printers which is able to print at a speed of 10,000 lines per minute. And even the displays can also be considered as output devices. So sometimes displays acts as both input as well as output. So in that case we call it as I/O system instead of calling it as only output unit. If it does both input as well as output operation, then we call it as I/O system. So this is about the output unit. So now last unit what we have is the control unit. So control unit, as we discussed earlier, it is going to control the functions of all the other units. So now let us consider the control unit. So now we discussed, so input device accepts the input information. Next it is going to be stored in the memory, and the arithmetic and logic unit, whenever it demands the operands, the processor is going to read the memory and the operands will be provided to the arithmetic and logic unit. Arithmetic and logic unit does the operation required, and once the output is ready, it is going to give back to the output unit. So all these functions has to be regulated in some or the other way, and this regulation, the organization of all these will be done by the control unit. So control unit acts as the nervous system of a computer. It provides control signal and timing signal for the functional units of the computer. So even though we have indicated it as or represented it as a single unit, it is not a single unit, it is distributed throughout the system. Control unit will generate control signals and timing signals which will be carried over the wires, and the wires are distributed throughout the computer. So it is not restricted to a single unit. Okay, and the timing signal and the control signal, so which are produced by this control unit, will be provided to input device, output device, memory as well as arithmetic logic unit in order to perform any given particular operation. So this is about the control unit. Okay, now let us summarize the operation of the computer system. The computer system going to accept the input information in the digitized format through the input devices, which reads the given information, and once the information is ready in the digital format, it will be given to the memory, or it can be directly given to the arithmetic and logic unit. And once the arithmetic and logic unit gets the data, it is going to perform, in order to perform any arithmetic or logic operation, the control unit has to give command and the control signal so that it performs arithmetic and logic unit. Before that, so it has to give the command or control signal to the memory to send the data required by the arithmetic and logic unit. So once the arithmetic and logic unit circuit performs the required operation, the result will be obtained, and that result has to be given to the output device. Before that, so it will be given to memory by obtaining a control signal to write into the memory, then that will be passed to the output device. So this is how the functional units of a computer function. After understanding the basic functional units of a computer, next concept we need to understand is instructions or machine instructions. So these are nothing but explicit commands that govern the data transfer within the computer as well as between the computer and external input-output devices. And the other function which is performed by these instructions is specifying the arithmetic and logic operations that needs to be performed. So a list of instructions that perform a particular task is called as program, and usually that program will be stored in memory, and whenever the execution starts, the processor is going to fetch an instruction one by one from the stored program or from the memory, and according to the instruction which is written, the arithmetic or the logic operations will be performed, and this fetching and execution continues until there is an interruption. So if there is an interruption, that is an emergency, so which will be raised by the input or output devices which are connected. Except for that condition, the execution continues one after the other according to the program written. So now usually these instructions or machine instructions will be written in high level language which is called as source program, and we have a compiler which will be translating that high level program into machine level program. So that machine level program is called as object program. Okay, so we have conversion from source program to object program can be understood by the computer. So this is about the instruction or machine instructions which are required for writing a program in order to perform a particular task. Next we have basic operational concept. So in order to understand how the operation happens within a computer, we need to understand the basic operational concept. So in order to understand that, so we have to write a program which will be consisting of a number of instructions, so in order to perform a particular task. Now let us consider an instruction add LOCA, R0 is present in the program which is written, and we know that this program will be stored in the memory, and when the execution has to start, so this will be fetched into the processor. The processor then performs the required operation, and then it will be, the result will be given back to the memory and then the output device. So now if you consider add LOCA, R0, in this we have R0 as one operand and LOCA as another operand. Operands are nothing but data. So data is nothing but the encoded information. Okay, it will be in the digital form. So now we have this addition instruction, so will be performed by arithmetic and logic circuit. So when this is executed, the addition of the memory location LOCA will be done with the contents of R0. So in the memory location of LOCA, you will be having an operand that will be added with the contents of R0, and in this case contents of LOCA are preserved, whereas contents of R0 will be overwritten. So in order to perform the addition operation, initially this will be stored in the memory. The processor fetches this instruction and it will be given to the ALU. ALU performs the addition operation, and then the result will be updated in R0. But when we consider the actual computer, so because of the performance issues, this will not be executed as a single instruction. Instead, this will be executed as two instructions written here. So we have two operations here. One is loading and the other one is adding. So once this load LOCA, R1 is fetched, so the processor is going to read the location LOCA, and that data which is present in the LOCA will be transferred to R1. So now R1 contains the contents of LOCA, and next the register we have is R1. So addition operation, next instruction we have is add R1, R0. Here addition of R1 and R0 will be performed. So here we have two registers. These two registers will be present within the processor itself. Because of this reason, this will be producing the result at a higher speed compared to this. So addition of R0 and R1 will be done, and in this case the contents of LOCA will be preserved, whereas contents of R1 and R0 will be updated according to the instructions. So now we understood that whenever the execution starts, the processor is going to fetch the instruction one by one, and it is going to perform the required operation according to the instruction written. So here we have add, load as the control commands which will perform the required operation according to the program written. And now let us see how the connection is between the memory and the processor. So if you observe, so this is the processor we have here. So processor along with the ALU and control unit, it consists of n number of registers, general purpose registers, and along with this I have written 4 more registers here, and these registers are MAR, memory address register, PC, program counter register, next we have IR, instruction register, and next we have MDR, memory data registers. So these are the registers which are available along with the ALU and CU inside the processor, and you can observe the connections between the processor and the memory. Now we will discuss how the communication between these registers and memory happens in detail. If you consider the execution of a program in the computer system, so initially the execution is initiated by the program counter. So program counter is set to point to the first instruction of the program which is to be executed and fetched, and instruction register holds the instruction that is being currently executed, and the result of this will be available to the control unit in order to generate the control and timing signals which are required to perform the required task. Yes, so now initially, so we have MAR and MDR. These two are the two registers which will communicate with the memory. So this will establish the communication between the processor and the memory. As I said, program counter, as soon as the execution starts, program counter will be having the address of the first instruction to be fetched and executed. Therefore, so this will be, the contents of PC will be transferred into memory address register. This memory address register contains the location in the memory which is to be read, and the MAR will read the contents of the memory. Once the time required for the reading operation is elapsed, the control unit will give a signal so that the contents of that particular memory location will be transferred into memory data register. Now we have the operand which is required by ALU in MDR. So MDR will transfer the data to the ALU, and if you have more than one operand, so this will repeat. So MAR will be containing the address location of the operand, and once the time required for accessing the memory is elapsed, MDR will contain the data which is present in the memory location specified by the MAR, and that will be given to the ALU in order to perform the required operation. And usually the contents of MDR will be transferred to any of the N registers, general purpose registers what we have, so that the operation will be fast. And now once the ALU performs the required operation, arithmetic and logic operations, the output, so which is ready to write into the memory, will be transferred into any of the registers, and that content will be transferred into the MDR, and now MDR has the data which can be written into the memory. And once the data is ready, then the control unit generates a signal, timing and control signal, so that the contents of MDR is copied into the memory. And so this is how the execution happens in a computer system. So these are all the roles of the registers which are present in the processor. So as I discussed, so the registers which are present inside the processor will be fast compared to the memory, so which is present outside the computer. Because of that reason, the data operands, so which are present in the memory location, will be fetched and stored in the registers in order to perform the arithmetic and logic operations. Then the program counter. So as I said, initially it will be consisting of the address of the first instruction which is to be fetched and executed. So in order to continue execution, it is going to be incremented automatically to point to the next instruction which is present in the program, and the rest of the operation will be continued as we discussed. Thank you. We will continue in the next class.